Hello, everyone. You are listening to podcast number 4 of Permission Slip Podcasts. Today, we have a special guest, Sharon Thorp, and we will be talking about a very important thing. We will be talking about life after divorce. And we will be talking about how she signed her own permission slip to do the things that she never thought were possible after divorce. And one of those things were traveling on her own. So before we jump into that, I wanted to give her a minute to introduce herself. Sharon, welcome to our podcast. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Anna. So, my name is Sharon Thorpe, and I am a traveler, a world traveler. I'm very blessed to be able to travel the world the way I do. A little bit of history about me. I have two adult children, both married. I have three grandchildren. So, I'm a nonna for those of you who know Italian and speak Italian. And I'm 64 years old. So, I've been divorced for 14 years. And I gave myself permission to live the best life I possibly could live and to learn how to get over some of the hurdles that we all have, the fear of traveling maybe by ourselves. But the greatest blessing of all when you travel by yourself is that you meet other people with a like mind and like heart.
100%. I know that when we just met and we had our first chat and you said you're a nonna, I knew instantly that we'll have this bond over Italian love of Italy, over Italian culture, Italian heritage. I love it. I'm not Italian at all. I did my DNA 0%, but I love that culture so much. And I love that you're not afraid because I know a lot of women these days are like, don't call me a grandma. I'm not a grandma. Like, I love how you just like, I'm a nonna. That is what it is.
It is, we all have our backstories and our history, and I embrace my age because, very sadly, my brother, my only sibling, died of a massive heart attack when he was 40. So my brother never had the privilege of getting wrinkles and, seeing his son grow up and obviously not being a grandparent. So to me, age is a gift that's not given to everybody. So I totally embrace it and feel that this is our society sort of, makes us all believe that everything is based on youth. But you know what? We're like fine wine. The older we get, the better it is. So I think, like Anna and I have spoken about travel, our love of Italy. And when I got divorced, I was married to someone who really, he liked to travel, but it was more on his terms. And I had been traveling to Italy for quite a few years, and we were divorced after we got divorced. And I had booked a trip to go back to Rome. And I sort of sat back and said, this is what I always do. And I'm going to do something different. So I changed my ticket and I chose to go to Buenos Aires, to Argentina by myself.
Wow.
Didn't know anybody. Didn't realize from New Jersey it was a 10.5 hour flight, but that's okay. And I went to Buenos Aires by myself and stayed in a hotel in a really cool little area. And I was okay to a point, to a point. And when I really started to think about it, I was like, oh my God, I'm here. I'm by myself. I don't know anybody. Sharon, you're an idiot. Like, what did you do? Like, why would you torture yourself like this? But I was there and it wasn't easy to get home. So I was going to make the best of it. And I took an on and off bus so I could get the lay of the land. And in front of me, the seat in front of me was a couple, a man who was around my age with a much younger woman who were madly in love. So it made the trip even more challenging. So I had to get off at the next stop and have a little bit of retail therapy to feel better. So it was a challenge going to such a different environment by myself. And then I went to an art museum and I'm a lover of art. And I was looking at a painting of the Pampas. And the realization came to mind that if I was with my ex-husband, he would have been saying, like, come on, let's go, move it. Why are we looking at this picture? I want to eat lunch. And I realized at that moment that if I wanted to stand there for 4 hours, I could literally stand there for 4 hours. And it was one of those, like what Oprah calls aha moments, where it changed my whole way of thinking. It changed my outlook. And at that moment, it was just a very poignant moment for me because I realized that I can do what I want. I can follow my heart's desires. I have permission to stand there for 3 hours, 4 hours. I have permission to eat when I want. I have permission to not have dinner if I had a big lunch. That I wasn't there to always take care of somebody else, that it was okay for me to do what made me happy, which I think is a huge step for a woman because our whole lives we're taking care of siblings, helping our moms in the kitchen, doing for dads, whatever the case may be. Then we have boyfriends and husbands or other people who, we are always helping. And we have to learn how to step back and say, I'm important too. So it was a really life changing trip for me.
It was such a beautiful moment for you, and it also takes a certain level of life experience and wisdom to catch yourself in that moment and to realize that, because I feel like our lives are so fast right now. We go through every day so fast that we don't even have a chance to reflect on certain things. And sometimes I catch myself feeling something and thinking something later on. I was like, oh, I'm so grateful that I remember that moment, and now now I can reflect back on it, because you could have been stuck in that mentality of like thinking of that couple with that older man with that younger woman and constantly like rehashing it in your head. We're so used to, like, I think the scientific way of it, like, we're so used to thinking what we're always thinking, because the neural paths in our brain, it's kind of like a hiking path. Like if you're walking on the hiking path, it's the same path back and forth. It's much harder to go off the path because there are trees and leaves, and like in our brain as well, like if it's so much easier to think, well, to be happy you need to be two, one, two, one, two, couple, him and her, him and her. So you could have been stuck in that mindset, and you could have ruined your entire trip being sad and upset, that wishing that you were that. But instead you had the wisdom, the beauty, the clarity of mind to realize, standing in front of that painting, oh my God, like, maybe it would have been nice to have someone, someone's arm around you who's loving and caring and supporting. I'm not saying that's not nice, but in that moment where you're standing there alone, you're still finding the beauty. You're still finding, like, you're seeing the other side of it, that like you can be happy and you can be satisfied, and you can give yourself permission to break that rule. And just because you're after divorce and 50 plus, like, you don't need a man to stand there next to you to make you happy. That's a beautiful thing.
Right. And I think what it is, it's really understanding that in life we have choices. So in the morning, happiness is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a choice. Sadness is a choice. Loneliness is a choice. And by that, is loneliness circumvented just by having a man in your life? Or is it also about having wonderful friends in your life, who enhance your life? And, uh, we've spoken about like our meetups and meetups that, we've had for travel, and to have meet other women with like minds and like hearts with the same type of fears, and how I feel like women are just so good at helping each other to get over these hurdles in life, and to really, we understand each other. We're all sort of dealing with the same issues, be it aging, being caretakers for aging parents, children, whatever the case may be. And, you find people who are living the same experience as you. Like everybody's experience is unique to them, but we
Yeah.
all sort of do walk down the same path, like
Yeah.
we're
I
all
love how
with the
Sorry, I
same.
didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay, but we're all dealing with the same things.
Yeah, I love how my business coach says, she's my business coach and life coach, says, Anna, you're not that special snowflake. Like, you may think that you're unique in this situation, but a lot of other people are going through this. We're just putting these limiting beliefs and these societal rules around us because that's how it's always done. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, I'm sure your friends who once they learned that you went to Buenos Aires by yourself thought you were completely crazy. Who does that? What do you
Of
mean?
course, of course they did. But I could also say that I do have friends who maybe thought at first, but when I did it, it gave them permission.
Yep,
Not sharing my experiences in my heart of what, was uncomfortable for me, it gave them permission to do the same thing. And my best friend, she retired first week of September, and she gave herself permission to spend 3 months in Sicily by herself.
that's
So
amazing.
I think we all have it in us. We hold ourselves back. We tell
100%.
ourselves we can't do it. And sometimes I think it's an excuse too, that we'll tell ourselves we can't do this or we can't do that because maybe we're just afraid to take that first step.
We are. And that's why we're called this podcast, Give Yourself Permission to Do These Things. And that's why I'm having this conversation with different women of different ages, races, walks of life, because I'm hoping that our conversations will inspire someone else to take that first step. Because if we don't give ourselves this permission, no one else will.
Right, and it's so true that it's always the first step that's the hardest.
Yeah.
It's like when you see, a child start to take their first steps, and they're a little wobbly and whatever, and we're wobbly with our first steps, but before you know it, you're off and running, and I can honestly say, I go to China on business, I fly over there. Yes, I have business partners over there, but I'm still on that 14.5 hour flight to Shanghai by myself, and I've met so many interesting people, and I really believe when you open yourself up to life, life comes to you. If you
Yeah.
shut yourself off, it's just interesting things don't happen. You stay isolated and your life becomes isolated. Like it's hard at first, but once you do it, there's no going back. Like it's joyful.
Yeah. Well, I always say when there is a will, there is a way, right? Like if you really want to make that trip, like, and of course, I run a travel company. We bonded over travel to Italy. So, like, we're going to talk a lot about travel. But a lot of times women come to me and say, I really want to join one of your trips. Do you have anyone coming from Detroit? Do you have anyone coming from Florida? Because they're afraid to get, they're like, I've heard multiple times, oh, I've never flown by myself. I've always flown with my husband. And maybe the husband may not want to travel, the husband may be deceased, like there are different situations in life, not always a divorce, but a lot of times women are later in life face situations where they have to do things they've never done on their own. And because it's later in life, like I feel like when we're all 18 and whatever, we'll just do it, right? But when you're 50, 60, it's a little bit or a lot harder to make that first step, and they're afraid. So maybe when I say, you can travel alone, I don't mean you leave your home alone and for 2 weeks you're like in China or Europe alone, you don't talk to anyone, you can. No, you don't have to be alone. Yes, you can leave your home alone, but when, right, for example, tomorrow I'm having a call with 3 women who are interested in coming on my Puglia trip, each of them from different locations. Each of them were a little bit hesitant about traveling on their own. So I said, why don't we jump on the call all together, the 3 of us, and figure out how you can support each other and how you can make this trip of a lifetime, this dream trip that will be perfect for you, happen if the 3 of you get together. You don't have to wait for your family, for your friends. Because a lot of times, like I was so many times in the situations where like I really wanted to do something. And my friends are like, yeah, 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 we'll do it. And then they bail, right? And you're like, I'm not going to sit in my whole life and wait for them to join me. Maybe I'll find someone else, or like I'll do it on my own and then find someone else who can do it. So like I'm really excited because I've never done a call with 3 women who don't know each other, who want to get together before going on a trip. But I think it's going to be a very interesting experience, and it will give them that permission to pull the trigger.
Right, and that was like, the meetups.
Yeah.
I had one meetup here in New Jersey, and I knew a handful of people, my friends who came to support it, but the majority of women, nobody knew each other, and they introduced each other, and within an hour, it was so noisy because everybody was talking so much, and I think women by nature, we bond with each other, and, because our stories, like you said earlier, we think our story's so unique to us, but it's not. And there's so much commonality amongst women when we're
Yeah,
just truthful and transparent. It's really about being transparent because we all have the same fears, the same joy. Like it's
yeah,
just
we're
that
human.
commonality, not looking for differences in each other, but finding the commonalities with each
Yeah.
other.
I really love the bonding experiences that happen when women come on our trips. We just finished a week in Spain and a week in Italy, and I feel like our Italy group has bonded so well. It's been two, I want to say 10 days since they all got home, and we usually create a WhatsApp chat for everyone while they're on a trip. The chat is still blowing up every morning. Everybody's in different parts of New York, of the United States and Canada. So every morning I wake up and it's like 72 notifications. I love how they still keeping in touch and they're having the conversations and they're sharing about jet lag, or if the, if they're tried the focaccia recipe, or if the wine that they ordered has arrived and how they miss their pets. It's, you would think that they've been friends their whole life. The
Well,
pictures that I've seen, sorry, one more point before I let you go, let you speak. The picture that I've seen from like day two of the trip, they're like hugging and they're smiling. And I was like, oh my God, it's so amazing that these women who did not know each other prior to coming on this trip already bonded on, like, after 48 hours, they're already bonded and they're like having the best time of their life. Sorry, now your turn.
and I feel that when women, especially when you're away on a trip, it's not like you're thinking like, oh my God, is there enough milk in the refrigerator? Is it this? Is it that? Like you're sort of free to just be
Yeah,
yourself. And I think a lot of times women lose themselves,
yeah,
over life because we're taking care of other people. And it's really so important for your children, grandchildren, friends, for you to really understand who you are because we all have a lot to offer to the world. We just sometimes don't think we do, but we do. And mentoring and, helping each other is the most important thing we could do.
absolutely. I remember my first trip to Italy with the group, and I was on the plane back talking to the two ladies that came with me. We happened to be on the same flight, and I remember, like, it hit me that I finally remembered what it's like to be Anna, because for so many years I've been the mom, the business owner, the wife, the daughter, the friend. Like, I forgot what Anna was like, and I was telling the women with next to me on the plane about my college experience of studying abroad in Spain and how I met my best friend there. And I was in Spain when I was 18. This was like more than half of my life ago. And on that flight back, I felt again that, like, this is how I kind of felt in Spain, like having these adventures and not worrying about the milk in the fridge and if the kids are fed. Like, yes, I have kids and I love my kids, and I'm so fortunate that I have a husband who's very supportive and who's willing to be with the kids while I'm doing this. But it was so important for my soul to feel that, like, what does Anna like to do? What does Anna like to eat? It, like, I came back a new person, and like it recharged me for like a whole year ahead to work, to be a good mom, to be a more patient mom, a more present mom. I can't stress enough how much, how like they do like vitamin B12 infusions. That, yeah,
Honestly.
that's like for me a flight to Europe. It's like I come back and people say like, "Oh my God, like you look different. What did you do?" I'm like, "I went to Italy." That's it. I didn't, no Botox, nothing. I just went to Italy.
Same here. One stroll around the piazza and I am
Yeah,
back again.
and you're back. Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's so funny because, if you haven't experienced it, it's almost hard to believe that it has such a positive effect on you, like, when you do take these steps, and then you build your confidence where you're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I did that. Like, that is sort of cool that I did that. And let's see, maybe I could do something like that again. Or maybe, I could start that Pilates class. Or maybe I could do, it just gives us this confidence. Cause I agree with you. My daughter has three children. And I said to Jessica, my words of wisdom, when my eldest granddaughter was born, Layla, like right now, you're 100% mommy. But in a year, be 99% mommy, but take back 1% Jessica. because someday your kids are going to grow up and they're
Yeah.
still going to need you, but it's going to be different. Don't lose yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us women, we lose ourselves. We forget to get our hair cut. It's not that important, but it is important because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And it's those little things that we always say, no, it's okay. No, I don't have to do that. And we always forget about ourselves. And you have permission not to forget about yourself. Like you
Yeah.
can, you matter.
Yeah. And your kids and grandkids deserve a happy mom with a fresh haircut. Like,
Of course.
right?
And Rhoda with a fresh haircut as well.
Right? 100%. Like we lose ourselves, we put ourselves last, we come up with all these excuses why we can't and why we shouldn't. But another saying, like I'm full of sayings. Another saying is like you can never get what you've never had if you never do what you've never done, right? Like you don't know what kind of transformation can a trip to Buenos Aires or Rome or anywhere else in the world do for you if you've never done it. And you don't know what you may be missing out on.
Right. It's almost like, you stand by the swimming pool and you're like, should I jump in? Should I not? And you stand there and you hem and haw. And sometimes you just have to dive in.
Yep.
Just go for it. Because then you realize that we really just stop ourselves. Like there's no reason not to do these things, but we come up with excuses and we stop ourselves. And by stopping ourselves, we stop our personal growth, our conversations become limited, you know, and especially as you're older, I find that there are so many women who are lonely, they've retired, their kids are grown. Okay, you have grandkids, it's great, and you can spend some time with your grandkids, but then the grandkids get older. Like, who are you? How do
Yeah.
you find yourself? And I think a lot of times it's through being with other women and changing your view, changing the location you're in and experiencing new things. You really find yourself again.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize how many lonely women are out there until I started the Facebook group that now grew up to more than 200,000 women. I was like, "Oh my God, this is like an epidemic of loneliness and it's sad." But at the same time, I'm happy that we created this because now we're giving an opportunity to women to have an outlet. Maybe not everyone, of course not everyone will travel with us, but maybe they'll join a meetup. Like I know you and so many other women in different parts, not only US, different parts of the world create
Right.
these amazing casual meetups. Let's grab a coffee, let's grab lunch, and you just you put together, you put a time and location, and you put the invite out there. And I think you've done a couple of these, right? Tell us more about that.
So the meetups, I really didn't know what I was getting into when I decided to do this. I tend to be a social person. And I just feel as I've gotten older, you know, hearing the voices of other women who will say, "Oh, Sharon, you go to Italy, you do this." Like, "Oh, when I retire, I'll go to Italy." Now I'm like, "You're retired and you're still not going to Italy." Like, everybody keeps putting things off. And I was like, you know what? Let me put together this meetup and see where people are on this and their mentalities and whatever. And so many of the women who came, every nobody came with a friend. I mean, I had a couple friends, but nobody came with a friend. So that's a lot of courage to begin with, to go meet up with a group of people where you don't know anybody, right? That's travel was the only common thread, or wanting to travel. And the meetup, like a lot of these women actually did become friends. They were texting each other for coffee. And then with additional meetups and events, like the same people want to come because now they're friends. It's not as if they're going to the meetup and they're not knowing anybody. Now they know a few people, and
Yeah.
their friend group is growing outward, and they're having lunches and getting together and talking travel. So from a simple meetup, now they have a new network of women who are in similar circumstances. Some of them are divorced, some have lost husbands, some are divorced, and some are married who have a lot of women are married who have husbands that really just don't want to travel. They don't want to do it. But the women feel now like, why am I not traveling? Like, he doesn't want to travel, but it's okay that I want to travel, and they're finding camaraderie with other women in the same situation.
Yeah.
It's
And these
it's women
relation
helping women.
absolutely. It's women empowering women, women helping women, women standing besides other women. And I know you have a few interesting thematic meetups and events coming up. I know we have some in the works together, so we'll definitely put more links to all our events below this podcast episode. We'll put them in our Facebook group as well. So if you're not part of our Facebook group, please join. But there will be a link below as well. Every woman of every race, color, from every walk of life and every country in the world is welcome to join our Facebook group. If you're local to some of the meetups, please join them. If you don't see any meetups in your area, please create one. It's free. We don't charge anything for that. You can create a meetup in your local coffee shop around the corner from your house, and you never know. Maybe on the street, 2 streets away from you, maybe there's somebody amazing who lives there, and you can make a new friend.
Well, I have to tell you, that's what happened at my meetup. There were 2 women who traveled an hour to get to the meetup that I had, to only realize that they lived in the same town and they lived in the same condo development. How strange is that? And they never knew each other. So, you never know. Like, life is full of surprises, and, you have to be out there to experience the surprise of life.
Yeah, you could not have said it better. Thank you so much, Sharon. This was such a joy talking to you. Thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. I hope at least one person will walk away from listening to this podcast and this interview with a little bit more courage and a little bit more inspiration to follow their dreams and to make that first step to either travel or make a new friend or just grab a cup of coffee with a stranger that you may never have otherwise met, but maybe you came across one at one of our meetups. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.